Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. This is a very unique interview that we're going to have going on here between Stephen A. Smith and Anton Daniels of YouTube fame. And everybody knows Stephen A. Smith, whether you're into sports, politics, Stephen A., I believe he's going to try to run for president. But if he does, he's going to have to choose a side. This is a very interesting interview. It's long. I don't know if I'm going to cover the whole thing, but I just might, because I might get into it, and I didn't chop it up or anything. Stephen A. Smith asked some good dialogue between the two, great questions. I think Stephen A. is coming away with learning something, by the way, from Anton Daniels, whose life is more politics. Stephen A. is still trying to figure it out. Sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong, but this is a very, very good interview. You can go to Stephen A. Smith's channel to see his stuff. You can go follow Anton Daniels, that's Anton Daniels, his channel. He's got over 1 million subscribers. So without further ado from me, let's hear what these brothers have to say.
He's also respectful, so long as you make sure you're respectful to him. That's my kind of brother right there. I'm looking forward to having this conversation. He is Mr. Anton Daniels, based out of Detroit. He's doing big things, big time things. He's got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube as well, and I have no doubt that that's going to continue to grow. The brother's special to listen to, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with him for the very, very first time, right here on Straight Shooter with yours truly, the one and only Anton Daniels. Up next. My guest is a Detroit-based YouTuber, business coach, and internet personality with more than 1 million subscribers across his social media platforms, known for his pop culture and conservative viewpoints. Please welcome for the first time to Straight Shooter, the one and only Anton Daniels. What's up, big time? How are you, man? How's everything?
What's going on, Mr. Smith? How you doing?
Man, please, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. I've been looking forward to talking to you or whatever. First of all, here's what I want to do, because I respect where you're coming from. Even when you get on me, I'm going like this. Well, damn, he got a good point. You got a good point. It's no big. It's all love, brother. I'm good with it. Let me ask you this question. How would you describe yourself, particularly in this day and age? Are you a conservative, or are you just a...
Yeah, before he goes in, just from my standpoint, Anton's one of the rare conservatives who stands on it. He doesn't shy away from liking Donald Trump or the MAGA movement. He's not MAGA. He's just conservative. And believe me, black folks were born into being conservatives way in the beginning. Actually, we founded some of the conservative party back in the 1800s. And so just go back into history. That's where we belong. So Anton's going to go ahead and Anton's going to describe himself. And let's go from there.
YouTuber, are you a podcast? What would you say? What do you want the world to know you believe you are?
I wouldn't define myself as a conservative first. I would define myself as a saint first.
A
right?
saint?
A saint, right? And it's a difference between a Christian and a saint. A saint is a person that believes every word in the word, right? We don't differentiate. We don't pick and choose which part of the Bible we believe. Even if I'm not perfect or I'm not doing everything right, I define myself by my belief in God. That's first, above all. And then everything else comes after that, right? So I am conservative, which I used to be Democrat. I'm not going to say liberal, but I am a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican. I've been married since I was 22 years old. So I've been married for the better part of 22 years. I'm a father. And then more importantly, I'm a bag chaser. So I'm always going to do the thing that adds value into people's lives, and I expect to be fairly compensated as a result of it.
You know, when you decided to support Trump in 2024, what was it about the MAGA movement that made you support it? Was it the fact that you are, as you described, or was there something different transpiring in 2024 that you saw compelled you to gravitate towards that?
The first thing is I felt like the election was stolen from him in 2020. There's no way that anybody can convince me that Joe Biden is the most popular president of all time and he got over 81 million votes. I'm not going for it. The second thing is that I start to take a deeper look at my own life, right? Because especially as Black people in the community, we taught to automatically vote Democrat regardless because we Black, right?
Yeah.
But when I started to deep dive into the things that Democrats stood for, it wasn't the fact that Republicans or Trump or MAGA first got my attention. The first thing that got my attention is the things that I didn't align with the party that I had been voting for based off of what my family told me to do, right? I don't believe in men and women's bathrooms. I don't believe in, a lot of the stuff, my dollars going to the federal government and letting them manage my money more than I can. I believe in smaller government. I believe in spirituality. I believe in a lot of the things. And so when I started to figure out, what are we doing? Why am I voting this way? I started to explore, what about Trump didn't I like? And I realized that it was more propaganda that was fed to me and that, he was supposedly be racist and all of this stuff.
See, I've said this plenty of times for all the folks who see my political reaction videos. As Black people, and especially at my age, we essentially were born into the Democrat Party since the 60s, right? I'm a post-Jim Crow era Black when somehow we just converted over to rotely voting for Democrats, The initial start was in the New Deal with FDR, and then we started changing all together. And a lot of people forget that it was a Republican who pushed the Civil Rights Act through the Senate. So yeah, just like Anton Daniels, when I did and I have to tell you, I voted for Hillary Clinton, by the way. I'm glad she didn't win when they ran against each other. And then I have my epiphanies and I sound just like Anton. What the hell are we still voting for? Our community is devastated. 60 years of voting for the Democrats, and the Black people at certain levels haven't been in worse shape. At least 25% of us, 30% of us are at the bottom rung of absolutely everything. And 25%, 30% is a lot. It's a lot. Anyway, let him go.
And then I started to evaluate every other president that came before him. And I realized that he's just a quote unquote straight shooter, right? I mean, he just tells it like it is, regardless of whether you agree with him or not. And most of the things that he said, I aligned with.
One of the things I want to push back on you on this notion about the 2020 election from this perspective. I believe that the election was legit, but not for the reasons one would think. I totally agree with you. I don't believe anywhere in hell 81 million people wanted Joe Biden to be president. But I do believe 81 million people wanted anybody but Donald Trump. So because of that, it makes...
I believe... See, I think Stephen A's answer is plausible, even though that 81 million figure has some... we were coming out of the daggone plague, whatever you want to call it. And, so I think there was a lot of shenanigans going on. Not to say that I didn't think Trump was going to win that election anyway. I mean, the pandemic was going to bring him down. As a matter of fact, let me tell you, I just think that he wouldn't be the kind of guy he is today if he would have won that election. He needed to learn some lessons. And I think we're going to get into some of the reasons why the conservative party, whether it's Trump or not, I think he's a beneficiary of better policies than the Democrats. So let him keep talking. But Stephen A is right on this one. I just think there was a lot of people who didn't want to see Trump.
It's because of that, it made it believable in terms of chaos, how much noise was being made. You know how people were like, you had people celebrating in the streets like, oh my God, we're finally free. You saw how exaggerative and how extra folks were when Trump was put out of office. So I'm saying that to me was emblematic of a large portion of America saying we wanted a break from all of that noise. That's why I believe the election was legitimate.
Okay, Stephen A. So let me push back at you a little bit.
Sure.
Why are Democrats so against voter ID?
Well, hold on. We ain't got to argue. Me and you align with that. It don't make no. I'm not supporting. Listen, you got to have an ID for everything. They ain't
right.
Please. I'm with you with that. I mean, I do think it was ridiculous, but I also pay attention to Senator Fetterman, who's been supported for the most part of the Republicans. When Fetterman said, quote, he said certain things about the SAFE Act are a bit extra. Yeah, you essentially got to have a passport, and it is more difficult to get ID, under these restrictions that they're putting out there than it was before. So I do believe that, but that doesn't mean that both sides can't come together and resolve that in a damn day. And for the Democrats to act like no ID should be required or whatever, like California and some of the stuff I learned about them and what they're doing under Gavin Newsom, that is utterly ridiculous. So you and I we ain't far off on that.
But that tells me, though, that they're fighting for it for a reason. And I don't believe it's because they really believe that people are being disenfranchised at the polls. I believe that they're fighting for it because they truly believe that it's going to affect whether or not they get elected and future elections. And I believe that the Democrats, their whole strategy, because as people get older and wiser, this is not even my opinion, this is a fact. Most people evolve to become more conservative, and then they sometimes, more often than not, deflect over and to become a Republican, right? When you're younger, that's really a Democrat's game is being, liberal, right? Because you don't know any better. But as people get older and wiser, they never defect from the Republican Party over to the Democrat Party. It's usually the other way around, right? So what they have to do is they have to find new voters and new people that support them. And I believe that the civil rights movement was hijacked by feminism. Feminism ultimately was hijacked by the LGBTQ movement, which Obama ushered in, and he solidified that. And then I believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion was ultimately the thing that they really leaned on in order to make sure that they had people in the voter rolls that not only identified as Black, not only identified as Latino, not only identified based off of their sexuality, but they needed a whole new voter class. And I think that immigrants was definitely the play. And that's why they're fighting so hard against voter ID.
But I don't disagree with most of that. What I'm saying is we can point to things that the Republicans do, the conservatives do, to position themselves for the same thing. For example, when you're redistricting in Texas, for example, and other places, you're doing that because you want to position yourself to get most votes.
Absolutely.
This is politics.
Absolutely.
So in other words, we can't hate on one side for coming up with a mechanism, you understand, to curry more votes in your favor.
We have to, Stephen A. And the reason that we have to is because it's one thing to, you said it yourself. I can't even jump on an airplane unless they identify who I am. I can't get a place to stay. I can't get a car. I can't get anything. But I can determine who it is that makes the laws that ultimately govern us. Like if that isn't the thing that we need to protect more than anything else in our culture, in our society, I don't know what is. So we have to be vigilant to make sure that every vote is valid and every vote is counted. And we can't just let, mail-in ballots or people being able to, I say gaslight us. And I believe in that, this election is free and fair when it's not. And I don't believe that that's what happened.
And we can't let them also say that Black people and poor people are too dog shit stupid to get an ID, or that married women who change their names and have been doing it since suffrage don't know how to vote. I mean, they were coming up with some of the most stupid ass excuses. And this year, there's finally enough Black folks that stop acting like we're assholes. We can get ID because we have ID for all the things we want. And telling women because you change your last name is going to be too complicated for you to vote. When they have what? When was the 19th Amendment passed? Women figured out how to do it. Shit, women ain't even changing their names these days anymore. Or when the fact and the real possibility to get married. So it's just all bullshit, man. They just want to have a new voting block. They flooded the borders, and they understand that with that comes, with that, what's the word? What's the hell is that term? Unintended consequences for what they're doing. Right? Maybe it's intended for some of them, but the the consequences for us, unintended consequences for the rest of us, is going to be catastrophic with all these people from failed nations flooding our country. New York is dead. They put that asshole Mondani in there, and New York is going to die a horrible death as a city. 8 million of them.
In 2020.
Well, let me tell you this too. Let me tell you, because you left out something that's very, very important, Anton. When you in New York City, and you need an ID to shovel snow. But you fight. I mean, you talk about telling on yourself. You talk about telling on yourself. I mean, Mom Donnie and the Democrats. I mean, it just went out the window. You fighting for the safe act not to exist, but in the same breath, you require an ID to shovel damn snow. I mean, that argument went out the window for them. There's no question.
I don't understand. I know you were born and raised in Queens. I know your roots is definitely New York. I know you a Knicks fan, and it breaks my heart to see what the Pistons are going to do to the Knicks. However,
I thought I liked you. Bro. I thought I liked you. You got to bring up the Pistons. You got to do that to me, bro. I mean, you got to do that. All right, go ahead, man. Go ahead, man.
However, I have to say that you must be disappointed in what is happening in New York, and I'm not even talking about with Kathy Hochul. I'm not just talking about with Zoran Mamdani. I'm talking about city council. I'm talking about Eric Adams. Everything that has transpired over the last 5 years in New York has ultimately led to you guys electing somebody that hasn't even been born inside of the United States of America, and y'all mayor today. So it bothers me. It bothers me that this country, is going the way that it's going.
You use the word disappointed. Nah, bro, I'm scared. I think New York is going to be an unmitigated disaster. I'm scared as hell. I already moved out the state, bro. I already bought a house in Florida. I ain't gonna lie to you. I already bought a house in Florida. I'm like, hell with this. This is an absolute mess. So you have your points. I'm just saying that you're making points about the Democratic Party. What would you say about the Republican Party? You're not about to sit up here and act like they're paragons of virtue, right? And that they're always honest and straightforward. We're not gonna do that, are we?
No, I think that Bush II was the worst president in my life. I absolutely hated him because of the things that he did to the economy. That was the worst time of my life. I went broke. I think that Obama inherited a mess. I don't think that everything that Obama did was wrong. I actually think that Trump's policies more or less align with what Obama was doing in 2008, 2009, 2010, right? If you look at Nancy Pelosi's policies back in 96, right? If you look at what Joe Biden said that he stood for, if you look at what Obama represented, those are the same things that Trump represent. They want to make it seem like, well, him deporting illegal migrants is such a bad thing. Obama deported over 3 million people. In his terms, Trump didn't even deport 1 million people in his first term in office. So I don't think that what Trump is doing is so radical. I think that what he's doing is more closely aligned with what moderate Democrats was doing back in the 90s.
So with that being said, is it fair to say that you wouldn't be against the Democratic Party if it represented what those Democrats represented back in the day, that your real problem is with the progressive movement that appears to have taken over the Democratic Party, and that's what you completely disassociating yourself from?
They didn't just appear to take over the Democratic Party, Stephen A. They took over the Democratic Party. The radical left wing really run the party, and the other guys are scared of them. And the other guys are old as hell. They like me. I mean, I'm young to some of those guys. In my 60s, I'm, Pelosi, Maxine Waters, all of those, they're old enough to be my mother. So, I mean, the party has so many old guys who need to leave. And Trump needs to leave too, but that's in 3 years. He's gone. So we got a lot of old people running shit, man. And they don't have the energy to beat back the AOCs and the Mamdanis and all of those kind of stuff. And then they have the people in between, like idiots like Kathy Hochul, racist, my word, I feel he is, Pritzker, who let out 1,700, criminals on his people in Illinois. So I'm telling you, man, if the Republicans lose the midterms, and I don't think they should concede, there's going to be hella pay.
No, absolutely not. I believe in less government. I believe that people that are here, they should be here legally. I don't believe in men and women's bathrooms. I believe in smaller, much, much smaller government. I don't believe in higher taxes. I don't believe that you are independent. I think that you are conservative. I think you're a Republican. And not just with your dollar. I think that you are a Republican, but I don't think that you are willing to admit it openly because of the backlash that comes along with the Black community and not supporting people that aligns with the Democratic Party.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because allow me to retort to that. I don't give a shit what people say. If I feel what I feel, I'm going to stand on it. My challenge is knowing what I'm talking about. you study politics more than I do, along
Absolutely.
with various others. And so because of that, there are times that I'm simply uncertain about a position. And because I'm uncertain about a position, I lean on the same old, same old. Like, for example, I'm about the economy. I want a strong economy, okay?
Mhm.
So I'm about free market capitalism. But I like some safety nets, not just free market capitalism and let's minimize government involvement to the nth degree. I think that
Like
makes
what?
me...
What safety nets?
No, I'm just talking about, well, when you talk about economically speaking, I don't want over-regulation, but I don't want zero regulation either. You see what I'm
That's
saying?
fair.
And in a binary system, they force us to pick a side. So for me, when I say I'm an independent, I'm like, damn, there's certain things that I lean a little bit here to the right, and then I lean a little bit here to the
I
left.
don't think
When you
that,
talk...
that the Republican Party forces us to pick. I don't. The Republican
No,
Party
I'm just
is
answering your
not.
question about me. I'm just answering your question about me, just for
Oh,
clarification
that's fair.
purposes.
That's fair.
With immigration, the only I totally supported Trump closing the borders because Biden opened them. If
But
Biden had never opened
why not
them,
vote for him? Why not vote for him?
because first of all, I've said this on many occasions. I would have voted for Nikki Haley. I would have voted definitely for Nikki Haley, possibly DeSantis. I didn't.
Nikki Haley, man. Listen, man, how you gonna vote for Nikki Haley? DeSantis, maybe. And what's the other guy?
Like his remarks about good points about slavery, so I probably turned against him
Right.
because of that. I didn't appreciate that shit at all. But I would tell you, for the most part, him, and I would vote for Marco Rubio.
Yeah, Marco might be a person too, but Nikki Haley, ugh.
I wouldn't hesitate. But also know this about me, because I'm glad you asked, because I heard you touching on some of my politics with some of your cliques. And I was like, I can't wait to speak to this brother. Right. And I said to myself, I said, listen, I don't blame him for feeling that way because he don't know me. And I've never really discussed a lot of this. But I said, listen, if you're sitting back and it's like, all right, it's immigration, follow the Obama policy, go ahead and keep that policy in place, I would have supported that. When you talk about safety in the streets, damn right. You ain't getting out of jail the same day you get in jail. Not on my watch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell no. So in that regard, yeah, I'm more conservative than liberal. But entitlement programs are more liberal than conservative. I think the desolate and disenfranchised, because I think the desolate and disenfranchised need a helping hand from time to time. I know it helped me and my family. Now, we didn't lean on it. We didn't depend on it. We didn't live off of it for decades. But to get a helping hand, to uplift yourself, sometimes I think that's needed.
Yeah, I agree with Stephen A. I think any successful society is supposed to look out for the lowest of these. However, you can't look out for them with no regulation. The biggest fraud cases that we're going to find is in all of these entitlement programs, because nobody's minding the store. That's how you get generational wealth. Generational curses passed down through generations. What, since the civil rights, since the 60s? How many generations is that? 3, 4 of people on Section 8 and food stamps, and which came back a little later, and all the other kind of stuff. Are you kidding me? Look at what's happening in Somalia. And I'm only mentioning Somalia is because it shined a spotlight on areas across the whole country, including red states, where people are taking advantage of these entitlement programs, the social safety net. We put more money into that than we do the goddamn military. Pretty much some of the biggest budgets that never get cut on these social programs, because that's where all the grift is. That's where all the crime is. That's where all the stealing is. That's where the no regulations are. And, so, yeah, Stephen A., yeah, it's good to be able to take care of the poorest of us, but somehow there's got to be some way to rein that shit in to make sure that the people who are minding the store are not getting rich at the same time.
And it doesn't bother me. So I'm pro-choice, because I don't believe in telling a woman what to do with her body. I think I'm more of a supporter of the LGBTQ plus community than conservatives are. So those are the reasons why I would call myself an independent who leans a little bit left instead of right, to clarify.
But here's the thing, though, Stephen A. The Republican Party is not distancing itself from people that's choosing to live their life the way that they want to live it. That's not the position, and that's how it's marketed from the Democrat Party. Okay. There's plenty of gay people. There's plenty of people that live alternative lifestyles that are a part of the Republican Party. What the Republicans are basically saying and standing for is we should not be allowing for children to transition themselves, or for parents to transition children before they become of age. We should
I
not
totally
allow
agree with that.
But see that, but see, that's the
1,000%
thing.
I agree
It's not
with you.
that Republicans are radical. They're not radical in their stance against anything. They believe in, freedom of religion and for you to be able to practice however you want to practice.
Right.
They're not trying to abolish gay marriage. None of that stuff is existing, right? That is a marketing ploy. But Democrats are extreme in their push for it in order to
But that's
align
now,
themselves with
Anton.
certain groups. No, that
That's
has
not.
been
That wasn't
since
back.
that has been since Obama
back in
been
the
in
day.
office.
All right,
That's
I
been
got
since
that
Obama
part.
been in office.
But I grew up in the 80s and the 90s and what have you, and I was hearing a different thing from the Reagan and the H.W. Bush administration. So you got to take that into consideration. And maybe I dropped the ball because I'm thinking about Republicans and conservatives, and I'm thinking about what the party had always been, even up until McCain was running. And I'm looking at it from that lens. That's all I'm going to. But let me get back to you.
But hold on, but let's stay on the my body, my choice part.
Sure, no problem.
Republicans are not removing women's rights to do what they want to do with their body. The only thing that they're saying is we don't want that to be the responsibility of the federal government. If that's what you want, then you can vote for it on a state level. That's all they're saying. But see, the miscommunication is that they're completely against it. I can disagree with your lifestyle, but still respect your right to do what you want to do because we're governed by the Constitution.
Right. Yeah, but Stephen A. is going to say this. I think he's going to talk about his sisters. He's got 5 sisters or some shit like that. The women don't like any restrictions on their being able to go and delete kids, because they say any restriction is a slippery slope to it all going away. Now, it's not true because different states have different policies, and people say, well, you could always go to another state where it's liberal, like in New York. You could delete as many kids as you want. Nobody's going to say anything. That might not be the same in a red state, right?
You see what I'm saying? Like my ultimate thing is we are a republic governed by the Constitution, and so we're protected based off of our rights, our amendments, our right to carry, right? All of these things. Trump is the only person that's protecting and going against birthright citizenship for illegal migrants, leveraging that when that was literally made for Black people and slaves. I don't see anything that he's doing policy-wise when he's when he's developing a lot of these things that create.
You people out there, who's for birthright citizenship? Until this administration, I didn't think much of it. But there's no bigger magnet for people to come here and just deposit a baby than birthright citizenship. And if we take that away, we take one more avenue away from people planning themselves here illegally and popping out children that we have to take care of. So I don't think it's no longer, I think we need to narrow what the 14th Amendment means. And it's at the Supreme Court, by the way. So there will be a ruling on birthright citizenship, if not this year, next year, that's for sure.
Criteria for people to meet the expectation in order for them to get certain things, even when it comes to government services and help and food stamps and Section 8 and all of that stuff. They're not getting rid of it. They want to remove the people that are taking advantage of it from a fraud perspective.
Let me throw this by you. Let me throw this scenario about you. Do you have siblings?
I do. 3 brothers, no sisters.
All right, so you don't have any sisters. Okay, so
No
it's
sisters.
a difficult question to ask you, but I'm gonna try anyway because I have
You're
4
a daughter.
older sisters. I have 4 older sisters, right?
Okay.
So you feel the way that you feel, but your sisters come up to you and say, "You ain't a woman. I am, and we need this." And what he or they are proposing is is against us. Now, that's not a community backlash. That's not worrying about what the public thinks. But I'll be damned if I didn't hear my sisters come in my face and remind me of the fact that you were raised by 5 women, and we don't appreciate what he and them, meaning the GOP, are attempting to do when it comes to our rights as women. I'm asking you, what are you supposed to say, think, and feel in that particular scenario?
I want them to tell me what rights is being removed from them. Because I know that women often at times react emotionally, and they're letting their emotions dictate their actions, right? It's okay for you to be emotional. Everybody has emotions, but I'm not going to let that determine what I actually do, right? And so the thing that I want to understand is the facts. So I would have a conversation with them, and I would ask them, what right is it that's being removed from you because I don't see it. I don't see any policy. I don't see any legislation. I don't see anything that's being removed from you from a Republican perspective.
Okay.
See, that's not how the women. That's not how the women see it. Like I said, they feel that any restriction, removing it from the federal level, is one step towards abolishing it altogether. And you know, some of these women are zealots, man. So they firmly believe that as sooner or later the states will ban them. There are some conservative states who try to take away whether the exceptions for, you know, assault and incest. You know, they were saying you gotta have the baby anyway, and the courts shot them down. So there's a lot of women who says if that kind of draconian mandate ever happens, you know, women are gonna go back into the back alley. So I understand where the women are coming from. I think they're wrong. I don't think it's going to happen, especially in all the blue states, sanctuary cities, and shit like that. We're talking about it. I don't see it happening. Okay, I just don't. You know, but if you're in a draconian state and you're promiscuous, just might have to move.
Anton Daniels right here, straight shooter with yours truly, Stephen A. I want to get to the black community in this regard, because one of the things that, listen, like I said, I don't consider myself a black conservative. I consider myself a black man who is an independent that leans left on some things and leans right. That's me. That's how I think about myself.
You can't be that way, Stephen A. You cannot be that way.
I believe I can. I believe I can.
No.
And we could answer. I will gladly come on your show. We can argue about that all day, every
I
day,
can't
bro.
wait.
I can't. Oh, come on. Oh, please, man. All you got to do is
I
say
can't wait because
you say the word. I will come on your show. It's not a problem.
Do
it's not
that.
a problem at all.
You could do that in sports. You can't do that in popular culture and politics.
Because
people in the middle get ran over. You got to pick one side or the other.
45% of the U.S. population is independent right now.
Really.
I would beg to differ on that. It's climbing.
They not.
If anything,
They not.
Listen, the independent vote, I think, is going to swing the election one way or the other. What do you say
They're
to that?
not. I don't believe.
You don't think that's going to happen?
I don't believe that 45% of the population is independent. I think that they say that as a cop-out, but not wanting to actually say out loud exactly what they represent and who it is that they support, especially within the black community. It's not popular to say that you're a Republican. It's not popular to say that.
Anton's 100% right on this particular issue. Most black people are afraid to say they're Republicans. And, you know, because every Republican, every conservative is not MAGA from the standpoint that they really believe in Donald Trump. They just like the policies on the conservative side. But if you're in a black community, you got to be prepared to fight your position, and you will lose relatives. You will lose some friends. You will lose some of them because there's a lot of zealots who are liberal. They're the ones who are the real fascists, and they're the ones on the liberal side. If you ain't on me, I hate you. Doesn't matter how many years you've known each other, how many spats you got them out of. If you don't vote like them, they want to destroy you, and that's where we're at right now.
Conservative. And so what people lean on is to say, well, I'm independent in order to give themselves an out for what it is that they choose and not to be accountable for who they support. That's what really is happening. See, I don't believe in what people say. I believe in what people do, right? And I think that a lot of times people are peer pressured, especially today in the black community, to vote against their own best interest because it's not popular to do and you can't be a part of the cool kids club. And so even with you, I don't like the fact that you apologize for some of the things that you said, because you were absolutely right, especially and particularly against how Jasmine Crockett was representing herself. But because the woke mob decided that they wanted to make you the punching bag and to come after you, and they still didn't and don't support you and didn't accept your apology. But in particular, and I'm saying it's not you, the Don Lemons, the Joy Reids, all of these people. They don't respect you unless you align with what they believe. And so even when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, they don't believe in diversity unless it's aligned with what they believe, which goes against. It's an oxymoron, right? It's hypocritical. And so even when you have an opinion, they don't believe in black Republicans. Mm-hmm. They only believe if you believe in them and diversity as it aligns with their agenda. Mm. That doesn't make sense. How can you want to have voices in every part of government, or voices that's different from yours, or representation, but you don't want representation when it doesn't agree with you?
Right.
The black community is the only demographic in America who votes heavily one way. there's a psychosis that goes along with that. There's plantation thinking that goes along with that. Back in slavery, which I don't like to go back to, we had metal shackles. Now we have mental chains around the community, especially black women. 92% of them vote against their best interests to be what they are now. And if you go on the social media streets, they're not doing that well. They're talking about education, but they're in $100,000, $200,000 worth of debt. They're the ones getting fired, all that kind of stuff, because they got the jobs that are on the low end of the stick. So, I mean, we got to start voting differently, or at least thinking a little bit differently. We don't have to be Republicans. I would say we all have to really be true independents and start looking at what policies are best for us as a people, and not just us as black people, but for us as Americans.
Like, I can disagree with you on a particular issue, but it doesn't mean that I remove your right to vote or your humanity, or I can't agree with you on this other issue. But that's not what they do. They're not tolerant like they sell you.
We all know that when it comes to cancel culture, the Democrats are the ones that are guilty of that. It ain't the Republicans
100%.
and the right trying to get people canceled. It's the progressive left. There's no doubt about that. We see that every single day. As it pertains, and I'm glad you brought that up, as it pertains to my apology to Jasmine Crockett, what happened was Trump came out thereafter, because I backed it up and I stayed on my position. Or not just the first time, but the second time. But then Trump came and used that as an excuse to start questioning her IQ and the intelligence of this black woman. And I didn't want to be a part of that. That's why I apologize for it. You can agree or disagree with it.
You can't apologize for something that you didn't do wrong, Stephen.
Well, again, but if I felt like I contributed to something that happened wrong to her, that was my only issue. But it didn't take away from what I was saying. Yo, acting like that ain't gonna cut it. Yo, that's not gonna win the election for you. That's not gonna win the Senate seat. That's not gonna make you have more power, more influence in the House of Representatives.
That's not who you are.
Sure enough,
that's not who you are when you talk about sports. When you talk about sports, you say what you say, and it is what it is.
Well, yeah, but the point is I have the facts to back it up, not just my opinions. See, when the Detroit Pistons lose to the New York, when they lose to the New York Knicks, right? Okay, I can speak definitively as to why, because the outcome is the outcome. There's nothing subjective about it. So that a lot of, and I get what you said, and I appreciate your comment about that, because a lot of people have looked at me, and even when they've supported me, they've been critical of me from the standpoint, yo, he's talking, but it ain't the same Stephen A with sports. And I'm like, yo, I got facts to back me up. In politics, this is my perspective. And somebody comes up with something else, I'm listening to you right now. I'm going like this. Well, I did feel this way, but damn, he did make a damn good point here, and he did make a damn good point there. I got to listen. I got to think about that, because that's how it is.
If they would have listened to you, if they would have listened,
she would have won. She would have won. She'd have won.
We align with that, right? But instead, we're more focused on how we feel instead of the results, which leads back to your original question about having a conversation with your sisters. My goal is to get the best results. And ultimately, sometimes I can't even be the nice person to you because I have to be the best person for you, right?
Okay.
I kind of look at it.
Now he's Batman, I'm not the one you want, but I'm the guy you need, of course.
Especially when it comes to women, because there are women that are still protecting my family and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I can't be, like, I have a daughter, and I know that you have a couple daughters. I can't be her friend. I have to be her father. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes she doesn't know what's best for her, which I can lead her through that with a conversation. But more importantly, I need to educate her at the same time. But I still want the best results. And
it's so funny when you have daughters. Every man who loves their daughters has come to that point. At some point, you got to let them know we ain't friends. And man, they pull at you, but you got to do what's right for them, and they'll get over it, and then they love you later on for you standing on a square.
If people really cared about Jasmine Crockett, then they would have stood 10 toes down and told her the truth instead of just going along with the get along gang to make her feel good about it. And now she's not even a part of she got eliminated in the primary.
There you go. We're talking to Anton Daniels right here on Straight Shooter. What's the hardest part about being a black conservative?
It's not hard at all. It's not hard at all. It's beautiful. I think that it's like being a man. Sometimes I think the true measure of a man is doing the things you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. All the time, you don't always want to get up and go to work, right? Because sometimes you're tired. But guess what? Part of being a man is getting up and taking care of business because you got people to take care of. And I think that we've lost that as men, and as masculinity is continuously demonized in a culture. Sometimes we look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as a badge of honor. So I don't think that there's anything, honestly, I don't look at it. I can't think of right off the top of my head something that I'm bothered by when it comes to being a conservative or Republican, because I just think it's an education process. In the same way that I used to critique and look at other people and say, man, I don't understand why they are Republican, is the light and the insight that I had to get. And ultimately, it was people that stood 10 toes down and didn't change just because they wanted somebody to feel good about them, which gave me some incentive to do my own research. And then that's what led me to being Republican myself.
You said black culture has become, quote, I'm reading from something that you said here, too victim oriented. But the wealth gap is real. But the wealth gap is real. The median white household has several times the wealth of the median black household, which I know you know. Where do you draw the line between personal responsibility and at least acknowledging structural barriers that may exist?
I don't believe that there are any structural barriers in 2026. And I think to say that it is disrespectful to the people that was actually civil rights leaders that fought for our ability to do the things that we're doing today. We don't even show up to the polls. And most of the time, especially if it's a local election or it's an election that's off cycle from the national election, we're less than 20% showing up at the polls, but it's people that died for us to vote, right? We literally can determine our own future today. There's nothing holding us back now. If you told me this 100 years ago, 50 years ago, I might have listened to you. I might have took that and said, you know what? There are some things that's preventing us from being what we are. But honestly, most of the things, I would say 98, 99% of the things that is wrong with us is self-inflicted wounds.
100% correct. 100% correct. And this victim thing we got going on is very destructive, and that's not to say everybody's going to make it. That's the problem. I think everybody thinks unless everybody's going to make it past the finish line, then it's not fair. That's bullshit. Life doesn't say everybody's going to be successful. I have to make sure, a lot of black folks also have survivor's remorse. You make it and everybody around you doesn't make it, but they didn't do the shit that you did to get what you got.
And life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. So if you're telling me, like, for example, they'll use, schools and HBCUs or whatever. I went to community college. And I made my way through corporate America and got to some of the highest levels in corporate America in banking, information technology, UX, UI. I went to community college, transferred over to, before I went to community college, I got a job at the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan then helped pay for my education to go to a major university after I transferred from that community college. Why don't we embrace that? Why don't we embrace trades? Why don't we embrace, different cultural norms that's not toxic to us? So in 2026, if I'm expected to teach my daughter, who just turned 18, that there's something that's preventing her from being successful and she need a leg up or a handout in order to be that, it'll be a cold day in hell before I ever tell her that.
See, you and I disagree in this regard. I believe that when you talk about most of our issues are self-inflicted, I'm just not going as high as the 98% that you threw out there. I think it's more like 70-30 personally. That's what I do. I think it's more like 70-30 in your favor. But I think it's more like 70-30. And here's why. Because I can use the word structural barriers, but then I can turn around when you debunk that and say, okay, no proverbial glass ceiling. I certainly believe that exists. There's definitely a proverbial glass ceiling. Because when you walk into, you walk in, like, for example, let me use me for example, because you'll appreciate this. So everybody talks about me and they talk about my contract and, I signed this contract with ESPN. All
beautiful. And congratulations on that.
I appreciate that. And I saw your comments too. Thank you for that. But let me say this to you. Bro, it was after I worked in the business for 20 plus years. And if it was after I watched a multitude of people get their paper. So I have this saying, and I'll give you the floor to answer this. I've had this saying. When the white folks catch a cold, black folks catch pneumonia. It's always worse for us. And the system is designed in such a way where it doesn't mean that you won't get yours. It doesn't mean that you can't get yours as a black person. But usually there's a figurative line, and it's going to be somebody white ahead of you that's going to get it. That's what
Who's
I
ahead of you right now? Who's
ceiling.
ahead of you, Stephen A? Nobody. You ain't even.
That's after 20 plus years, though.
But that means you worked your ass off.
Yes, exactly.
I read your book. I know everything that you went through. I know where you got started. I know what happened at Winston-Salem. I know how you got injured. I know where your inspiration came from.
This is when you see a man prepared for an interview of his life. Okay. Anybody gets in front of Stephen A, if you're not well known, this is really kind of a small coup for Anton Daniels, especially with the crap he's going through with like a whole bunch of crab in the barrel content creators right now. Some of it is his own self-inflicted wound. But he's going to show you that he's done a lot of studying on Stephen A and where he's at right now. And I guess any of us who want to take a lesson on being prepared for an opportunity, here it goes.
Right. I know that you was over in Philadelphia really working your ass off in order to get to the spaces that you in. I know that you took accountability for your contract not going the way that it was supposed to go in 2009, right? Yep. I know that you talked to the head of ESPN and he told you that your time wasn't up yet, but you worked your ass off, right? You wrote articles. You did everything that you needed to do. I know that you leveled up and nothing that you did could be taken away from you because you earned everything that you have. You didn't run in the Victim Olympics, and I think that you're handicapping other people because you deserve that $100 million contract. Nothing in your book, not one thing that I read in your book, straight shooter. Not one thing that I read in your book. Even when it came to your childhood and your father and you describing everything that he did that ultimately led you to becoming the man that you, even when you talked about kids teasing you based off of dyslexia and everything, not one thing in your book did you ever make an excuse for and say, you know what, I'm a victim. You use that as leverage and motivation to push you further. Yeah. And you are the top dog in the field right now.
But I appreciate
that.
But
how can you make that argument, Stephen A, when that's not even a reflection of what your life is?
Because what I'm saying to you is that just because I'm not encouraging anybody to embrace victim mentality. I apologize if I gave that impression, but I had to be that dog. I had to push through. I had to keep going. All I'm saying is I acknowledged in my own mind some of the barriers that I was going to have to maneuver my way through in order to ascend. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and I wasn't going to embrace the victim mentality. But it doesn't mean that I was walking around acting like it didn't exist. I just knew I had to overcome it because bitching and whining about it ain't going to get it done.
But that's the point.
That's all I'm saying. That's entirely different than saying it doesn't exist.
When we say that, we give people permission to bitch and whine.
That's right.
And I'm
okay, then say that.
When we sit here and we look at the quote unquote wealth gap,
okay,
if you really do your due diligence and you study, you'll realize that we demonize and we make the person a litmus, the person that we're chasing, white people. I will tell you that all you got to do is look at the census and look at the income inequalities. And I will tell you that white people are not ahead of us that much. They're about right here. The real people that's generating the most revenue and the highest household income on average are Indians and Asians. Mm-hmm. It's not white people. So why do we use white people as the scapegoat or as a measuring stick for what it is that we need to do and automatically qualifying them? Because I could tell you when I was in my software engineering classes, there were no black people. All of them was going into business. All of them was doing marketing and all of them was doing a bunch of stuff that they wasn't really trying to do because it was easy for them to stay in school and still qualify for their student aid. They're not picking STEM fields. We're not picking the right curriculums. We're not going into healthcare. We want to always take the shortcut as a culture. And that's why I say that the culture is trash. It's not black people. It's the thing that we celebrate the most that ultimately is the thing that holds us back. The culture is toxic and we push it and we promote it. And as long as we continue to believe that it's systematic things that's holding us back, then we'll never get to the place that we're supposed to be at.
So essentially, I'm willing to concede, first of all, that everything that you just said is on point. What I'm saying to you is me acknowledging whether it's a proverbial glass ceiling from time to time or whatever, it's not the same as, okay, you're encouraging folks to embrace a victim mentality. I might sit up there and tell you the obstacle, but at the end of the day, you still got to overcome it. We won't hear no damn excuses. Like you said, I got 2 daughters. Look, I don't want to hear excuses. You're you educated, you smart, figure it out. I'm going to help you as best as I possibly can. But we ain't adopting and embracing this mentality that there's no way we're going to succeed because there's barriers in our way that are unfair. Get the hell over it and let's figure out how to do
I
it.
think we push it even in 2000.
Yeah, man. And Stephen A., you can't. You're trying to run this a line. If you listen to our biggest enemies now, the black liberals, they don't make that distinction you're trying to make. They're telling the black population, unless you follow us, you to follow me, you're going to get lost in the ether because the other side hates you, whether it's true or not. Right? It's kind of funny because at a certain level, all the whites that we might say hate blacks, they all go to the same club. You don't think Biden goes to the same club as Trump did, or the Bushes? They might have, Obama might have been a butler at the door, but he got in a little bit. They hated his guts. But the point really is that you can't tell people that there's glass ceilings and all this stuff and don't give them the refinement that, okay, there's a glass ceiling, but you got to overcome it. Just tell them they need to go ahead and go up and make a plan to try to succeed. And if you don't hit the stars, but you land on the moon, it's better than just keeping your feet on the earth and don't try at all.
2026, we push it.
Really?
And that's
in
what
2026?
Absolutely. We push it. We push it with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We don't feel like we can get a job unless somebody gives us a leg up.
But diversity, equity, and inclusion, black folks weren't even the primary beneficiaries of it. It was white women.
But you can't sell that to them. You can't tell them that because they still believe that is something that they need and it's a handicap, but it really didn't even benefit you. And that's my whole point, is that you don't need it if the person that benefited from it the most is the one that you're using as the litmus. Then why would you have it as a part of your agenda? Why would you have it as a part of what you need in order to be successful? You don't need it. I see people every day criticize Martin Luther King, and they say, well, part of the reason why we are today what we are is because we should have stayed segregated and we should have depended on ourselves in order to continue to be successful. Well, you can't have it both ways. I disagree with that narrative, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say that we should have been integrated while at the same time criticizing a system that we integrated into, and then at the same time say that, well, you know what, we would have been better off if we'd have stayed to ourselves. You can't have it both ways. And we speaking with forked tongue because we're looking for an excuse for why we're not successful instead of just doing what we got to do. Life is hard for everybody. There's plenty of white people every single day that's suffering. They on drugs, they highly medicated, they on government assistance. More white people are on government assistance than any black person, any black culture, any part of black culture in the United States of America. Life is hard for everybody. Either you a winner or you a loser. And it's no way that I'm ever gonna find myself in a losing category because I refuse to. I'm just gonna work. I'm gonna outwork you. I'm gonna out hustle you. I'm gonna study more than you. I'm gonna do everything that I can to beat you.
I can relate to that. Anton Daniels right here with Stephen A. So when Trump goes about the business of at least appearing to, the Smithsonian Museum and stuff like that, and basically trying to block access in some people's eyes to black history and stuff like that, you don't have any issues with things of that nature? You don't find yourself questioning anything about Trump that makes you say, now that's not necessary. You don't need to do that. Or, anything that'll make you say, I don't think he's looking out for the black community nearly as much as he should. Nothing at all.
I think that he's done more for the black community than any president before him, especially in my lifetime. Like, it's a regular question. It's an ongoing question. Before I even start to address Trump and how he permanently funded HBCUs, while he's working on birthright citizenship, that's literally that was for slaves. That shouldn't even exist at this point. How he created opportunity zones in his first election, in his first term in office, in order for us to invest in our own communities. We can go down the line on different things that he's done specifically for black people. The better question is when you compare and contrast and you pay attention to somebody like a Barack Obama, who's endeared to the black community because he can sing. I love his jeans. He wears mom jeans and he's a smooth brother. But when you ask yourself the question, what specifically did he do for black people? You come up with nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. So how can we hold Trump to a standard that we don't even hold the first black president in the United States of America?
But you just acknowledged earlier what Obama inherited. You understand what I'm saying? And you could get to the Affordable Care Act, 24 million people. I'm sorry, 24 million additional people on have healthcare insurance. You can put, some people will point to that. Some people will point to that.
The healthcare system as it stands today, the Department of Education as it stands today, it is all horrible. It is bad. And again, we diverting away from the question, what specifically did he do for Black people? Because we hold Trump to a standard that we don't even hold Obama to.
That's good.
Nobody can point to one thing. I could tell you what he did for the LGBTQ community, though.
Fair enough. You're moving deeper into political commentary, obviously. Elections, Trump, Black conservative space. Are you yourself becoming a political figure in your mind, or is politics just content?
No, I'm deep into it. I don't think that you can divest from it because it's a lifestyle. So for example, I believe you should live and be a reflection of whatever it is that you stand for, right? And this is why I hold a lot of people accountable for some of the things that they say, because it's like, well, your life isn't a reflection of it, right? Let's say, for example, the relationship space. And everybody can have commentary on a relationship, but very few people have been successful at relationships long-term or been successfully married. So I give a little bit more credence to the person that's a reflection of it. Or you could say a preacher, right? Who would go and listen to a preacher that's not a reflection of the thing that they preach? Once that preacher gets exposed, then it's all downhill from there, right? So when I say that I'm moving deeper into the political sphere, I don't think it's a limit for me, honestly. I mean, at some point, I'll be honest with you. And one of the reasons why I'm still here in Michigan, I got Detroit on my back right there. And shout out to everybody that's in Detroit. I might run for office. The only reason that I haven't so far is because it would limit my financial ability to really add value to my family at this point.
There we go. So you relate. To all the news out there. Hell, I ain't giving up that money. I ain't giving up that money, Anton. It ain't happening. I work too hard to get this money. I'm not giving it up, bro. I'm not
ready for that.
Politicians are asking for the money we making. Why would I give that up? Why would I give that up?
Because I believe that, you truly have to be a public servant. I don't like the political landscape. I think that Congress, it aggravates me that Congress still gets paid while they control the purse strings to the country, and TSA agents ain't getting paid. I believe that they need term limits. It's a lot of things that I think needs to happen. But more importantly, I believe that the true heart of what we do politically is what we do locally. I know we focus a lot on what's happening nationally. We focus on Congress, we focus on the president, we focus on the Senate. But we really need to be focusing on villages. We need to be focusing on policy that's happening inside of these cities. I see what's happening in New York. They promised y'all a lot, but now they're looking to raise property tax values maybe 10%. Right? I think that local politics is more meaningful than what's happening on a national scale.
Got you. Before I let you get on out of here, just a few more questions. When you think about what you've done and what has resonated most, some people would think it's you and Corey Holcomb. Some people would think it's your politics. I mean, what was it? What was it for you? I mean, what that experience? I watched it. I ain't got too much to say about it. I ain't trying to get in that mess.
I'm surprised. You should.
Well, just listen, man. Cat's gonna talk.
You know what, man? Steven, they did some homework too. It's interesting that he brought up the whole Corey Holcomb issue, man. It's from that interview between Anton and Corey Holcomb. There's I guess underbelly of YouTubers that hate Anton Daniels, and since that interview, man, they put out probably no less than 100 videos trying to destroy this man and everything he's built. And now, after all of that, he's on here talking to Stephen A. Smith. So they really haven't stopped anything.
and you know, I'm like this. I got mad respect for how you handled yourself. I tell you that much. I got mad respect for how you handled yourself, and I think that it was a good conversation ultimately. But clearly things almost went off the rails, and I'm glad it did it, because that wouldn't have been a good look for two brothers.
No, absolutely not.
Like that. Yeah. So what were your thoughts? First of all, how have things been since that happened, and most importantly, do you like being popular for stuff like that? Or is there something else you like being popular for more?
I don't care about what I get popular for. I just think that I need to become more popular. And the reason that is because I think that once people discover you and they start to do a deep dive into what your conversation is or what your content is, that's the thing that then resonates with them. So people go viral every single day, you know, for different reasons, but they're one-hit wonders, or they fall off because they don't have anything that's relevant that allows for people to still follow them and keep them. So popularity and getting the word out and becoming more visible is necessary in order for you to be successful financially, is necessary in order for you to be successful as far as getting the word out or what it is that you're trying to change as far as the culture. So it doesn't matter to me. Politics, popular culture, I'll take it all.
But the algorithm,
I don't believe that there's any such thing as bad news.
But the algorithm rewards the most provocative version of oneself. True. So how do you make sure that the version that goes viral is also the version that's the most accurate?
Well, I don't care about which version goes viral, because people gonna do what they're gonna do, right? So I look at it as, I put the medicine inside of the candy. The entertainment is why they discover you. The medicine and what you do for them is how they stick around, right? And so I don't worry about what people do with it. Like, for example, there's plenty of people that'll take what you say, or they'll react to what somebody else played of you, but they won't go to the original source and find out the full context as to why you said what you said. Now, you can't teach that. It's a certain type of person that's going to go to the original source and want to watch the whole thing, right? I'm the type of person that I want to read your whole book because I want to understand the mindset as to why you did it when you did it. You can't teach that. So people are going to discover you, and they're going to take the information and they're going to do whatever it is that they're going to do. I can't control that. The only thing I'm going to do is keep doing what I'm doing.
Last question, and I said this on a recent interview that I did. It's like, you know, to me personally, I've always been partial to Black conservatives in this regard. I think that Black conservatives have been victimized. Even no matter how many times I went to the poll and voted for a Democrat, it always disgusted me that the default position is you must be a sellout if you are a Black conservative, as opposed to hearing why one of my best friends is a diehard Black Republican. He left the Democratic Party in 1996, and he has not looked back in the last 30 years. Die-hard. And he's in my face all the time, talking to me about every little thing that the liberals do wrong. He just see, and he's just my phone blowing up all the damn time with him. And I've always been partial from the standpoint, I don't give a damn how supportive I was with the Democratic Party. I've always been, wait a minute, why did he say or she say that? Why did he feel that way? Let's hear what they have to say, and based on that, I will make my decision about how I feel. Not automatically my default position is they ain't down for Black people. They don't care. Do you ever see that kind of mentality being rectified, particularly in this day and age, considering how hostile things are?
Never.
Yeah.
It'll never go away.
It'll never go away.
You know, I watched this past weekend Boys in the Hood. And it's so funny because as I watched that movie, and it came out in the early 90s, I also watched New Jack City, and I watched Minister Society. And we did like a film study. We got this little group that we do a film study. And what I realized is that we haven't changed as a culture since the early 90s. We have the same narrative. We have the same talking points. We look at women the same. We look at the system the same. We have not changed. The hood is the same as it was back then. Everything is literally the same. Now, that was the 90s. We are in 2026, and our children, the culture, people that have never experienced racism before in their life, is claiming racism and saying that the system is against them, and they haven't even lived life long enough to see what the system is. Their brains aren't even fully developed. because your brain isn't fully developed until you're in your mid-20s. They're automatically teaching racism, and they're teaching victim Olympics to them. And it's a generational curse that we continue to pass down.
Yes, it is.
And we continue to pass down. I don't think that it's ever going away. I don't think that'll ever go away until the end of this earth. I never see it going away. Racism will be a part of the conversation. Gentrification will be a part of the conversation. Systematic oppression will be a part of the conversation. All of these are talking points and terms that we use to justify why we are in the place that we are. I don't see it happening. The only thing that you can do as an individual is to do your part, get the beam out of your own eye, and be a reflection of the thing that you advocate for. They can call me a sellout, but everybody that works for me is Black. And 80% of them are women. You see what I'm saying? Is it about your talking point, or is it about what your life is like?
Right.
So I don't pay attention to it. My goal is to save who I can, add value where I can, and make as much money as I can.
Last question to you. If you had your way and you got to impact me and my mode of thinking, or what I choose to articulate or whatever, what would you do? What would you do, Anton? If you put me in one of them spin things and just tried to change me up, what would you do to me, Anton? What would you do?
Honestly, it's a difficult question because I understand your position and I'm looking at it from your lens, right? So, for example, I understand that you're wearing multiple hats and you're crossing boundaries when it comes to sports, politics, popular culture. I watch everything that you want. I read your book, obviously. I look at the podcast that you go and visit and you know how you talk about your life and even relationships and things like that. And so you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I believe that one of the reasons why you are so successful is that you're able to navigate through all of these different lenses while at the same time not alienating anybody in particular. To answer your question with that context, I would push you to be 100% hardcore Republican and standing on that, because I think that it's the right thing to do, and I think it's the true representation of what Black people originally are. We are a party. We originally from the Republican Party, right? We are conservative people. Everything.
This is historical fact. He's not making that up. This is all historical fact that we're originally Republicans from the Civil War on, started to change with FDR, and it changed forever for the last 60 years because of civil rights. And it wasn't even a Democrat who pushed that through.
Thing that we do, from the way that we live our lives to the money that
pushed that through the Senate,
we make, and even how it is that we raise our children, we are supposed to be a conservative people. So if you're asking me what I would tell you to do from a moral perspective, I would say to lean more into conservatism and to be a Republican. If you're asking me what I would tell you to do as far as making sure that you impact the most people possible, especially whatever your future prospects is, I'm hearing that you're thinking about Mullen running for office one day, then I would tell you to continue to do exactly what you're doing. But it depends on the path that you're trying to take long term.
Great answer. Look, my man, I appreciate the time.
It was a great question and a great answer.
It was a great conversation. Glad to finally meet you. I appreciate your work, even when you're getting on me.
I'm getting you on my show, Stephen.
Yo, it's done. It's done. You say it, I'll be there. You have my word.
Listen, hold on, but before we go,
this part here is a part of the way folks should edify somebody that they respect, and this is also a masterclass in edification for a person who has achieved the kind of heights that a man like Stephen A. has.
Man, you are truly a legend. Real talk, and I believe in giving people their flowers the same way that you give other people their flowers. You deserve your flowers. I think you are incredibly underrated. You worked your butt off. Nobody handed it to you. And more importantly, you broke barriers and you opened up the doors. And when you see all of these people doing some of the same things and they're trying to follow in your footsteps, whether they're former athletes or if it's people that just want to get into some of the same spaces, you are the blueprint and you should be celebrated today. Not 10 years from now, not 15 years from now, not 20 years from now. I don't care what they say about you as far as the people that may not care for you or like you. You are truly a trailblazer and you deserve every single dollar, if not more, than you make it right now. And you deserve your flowers today, bro.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, man. It really means a lot to me. And I'm glad to finally meet you. And I am coming on your show. When you call, I will be there. Whether it's here, if I'm in Detroit, because it does look like I might have to get to
I'm about to go to the Lakers.
Well, folks, hey, listen, that's really the effective end of this interview. Stephen A says a few words at the end, but you know what that's going to be. He's wrapping it up. Thanks for stopping by, folks, and spending this hour plus, with me, an hour and 9 minutes. Listen, I ain't talk as much as I thought I was going to talk. But anyway, listen, this was a good interview. It's one of the better interviews I've seen. And I'm glad to add this to my political reactions lineup, So anyway, I do a lot of Caroline Levitt, did a few of the president, now it's just I also simulcast this on my sports channel, a Unique Sports Talk. You can go there, and every Wednesday I have a live that I do at 7:00 Eastern. Anyway, I simulcast that here as well. So stay tuned for things in the future. Hit that like button for me, folks, and I'll see you on the next one. R. Payne, your favorite baby boomer, over and out.